Hello and welcome to Artist Express. Today our guest is Debbie Wagner, who lives in Bennington but works throughout the state and in other states as well on her art. And so Debbie, welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You're quite well known for a number of different types of art. One of the things that you're most well known for are your sunrises. And I wonder if you'd just talk a little bit about how you started doing the daily sunrise paintings and what has happened as a result of that.
Well, my sunrise paintings began as a practice of gratefulness for having another day. And I'm a brain tumor survivor, so as a brain tumor survivor, I understand how every day is a gift. And I think that I woke up in December 2005 in the wintertime. It was a glorious sunrise, so I thought, I wonder if I can paint that, and I did. And after I painted it, I painted the next day and the next day, and pretty soon a year had gone by. And at the end of the year, I really decided to just continue painting. And so now, here it is, 2018, almost 2019, and I am still painting the sunrise almost every day, and expect to continue doing that.
And tell a little bit about how the word got out, how people found out you were doing this, and how then they wanted to connect with this process too.
In the beginning, Dr. Bergen had a show at his gallery for me, and that was after I completed the first year. And it was so interesting because I saw the sunrises. We put 12 on the wall from the entire year, and I looked at him and I said, oh, the sun goes back and forth on the horizon. I didn't think about that until then. Well, then in 2011, Larry Hatteberg picked up on the story, and he did a Hatteberg's People film, a documentary on the sunrise practice. And from there, it went into MSNBC and the Daily News and different news sites, like 30 or 40 of them all over the world. And then people became really interested because they looked at the daily practice as memorializing special events for themselves.
Right. So when a new baby was born, for instance,
yes,
they might ask for
yes,
that day's sunrise,
yes,
or whatever. Yeah,
yes,
that's really nice. Now, you started out, and do you sit in the exact same spot in your window every morning to get the sunrise? So if you see a difference, you know the difference is in the sun, not in where you're sitting, right?
Right. I have a balcony which faces east, and my sunrises are all in a tall mechanical tool chest, and so it's like a fluent language for me. Or not my sunrises, the pastels that I paint with. And so they're very categorized and orderly, so I know exactly where they're located, and that part I don't have to think about.
Right.
My
so
paper's
you can just
already.
Reach for blue,
yes,
violet,
the exact
whatever.
colors. I know exactly where to go to get what I'm seeing in the sky. However, when I travel, I do take a pastel kit that I've created that I can paint the sunrise wherever I go.
Right. So, but you might have to do a little more visual blending, you know, in terms of how you juxtapose the colors to get the different tones.
It's so different in other places, and I have to kind of really pay more attention to not only the colors of the sky, but the landscape, especially if it's ocean or mountain, because I'm not used to painting that.
No,
that
not
terrain.
from your window.
No.
Absolutely
No.
not. And now, The morning that you decided to make your first sunrise painting, you already had the supplies. So what sort of paintings were you making before that day?
When I was diagnosed with brain tumors, the doctor told me that my tumors were the size of pears. And so the image of the pear has creeped up in my artwork a lot. I like that symbolism, and plus it's the shape of a woman. And I've used pears a lot, so I was probably painting a lot of fruit and still life and going in that direction.
I see.
And using it symbolically, not as this is a
pear.
Yeah, but
right.
Everything is symbolic to me.
Yes. Now, I know too that you are very active with figure drawing. Now, had you done much figure drawing in the past? When did you start doing life drawing and being active in that type of work?
I started life drawing at Kansas Wesleyan here in Salina. And Lori Wright actually began that class, and then they closed for the summer, so we moved it to my studio in Bennington.
I see.
And then we moved it back to Kansas Wesleyan for another year, and then back to my studio, and then she got pregnant. And so we moved it to Bennington pretty permanently, and it's been going for maybe 12 years.
I think it's been a long time.
Yes.
I vaguely remember
Yes.
when it started, but the time goes so quickly. So how many people do you have who come regularly to draw?
I send out an email every week, and it's probably sent to around 100 people.
Wow.
Some people I've never met, but they just want the news. And so we probably have at the most 15 and at the least 4 that come every
That's
week.
Wonderful. Yeah. And generally, when you do a life drawing session, do you wind up with the beginnings of a painting? Because I know you probably only work, 2 or 3 hours at a session. So do you wind up with a finished painting, or is it more like the beginnings of paintings? How do you set your schedule in the session?
I love the gesture, and I love spontaneous work that is done very quickly. It feels like it has a lot of energy and emotion to it. I've taken a lot of those gesture drawings and reinterpreted into fiber work.
Oh, I see.
But I hardly ever, I shouldn't say I don't ever, very seldom do I take a piece home and work on it more.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful. Well, you sort of lose the inspiration when your model's not in front of you anymore. Then some of the excitement has gone onto the page, and
I'm really good at destroying
that
excitement. If I work on it longer, it's gone.
Right. Yeah, and I've heard other artists say the same thing, that you have to know when to quit. And so that's what gives the paintings their energy.
What's really fun with that is when you're drawing the model in front of you, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I just wish I could have captured that person more accurately. And maybe a year later you pull that drawing out and you look at it and you think, I don't know who that is, but it's a pretty good drawing.
Exactly.
So
yes,
if you can look at it outside of trying to capture who that person was.
Right. You're not trying to reproduce something that already exists. You're expressing
and energy.
Yes. And a
human energy.
A live person.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Now, since you mentioned fiber work, can you give us a little background on how you've worked with fiber, both in the past and then in recent years? I have been in a couple of your workshops, So I know some of the things you're doing now, but it's been a few years. So talk a little bit about how that got started.
I stitched clothing as a child.
Oh, yes.
And I ripped and ripped and ripped because everything had to be perfect. But I have embraced the imperfect in fiber art. So I've felted, I've done a lot of felting, which is very fun because it's a very fluid medium and you never quite are in control. So I really love that. And I really, really love free motion stitching, where I'm actually drawing with my sewing machine. So that for me works well with reinterpreting the human figure.
Right. Now, Lester Raymer at the Red Barn, or who's memorialized at the Red Barn Studio, did a lot of work with that kind of stitching, I think, in the Christmas banners that he made for his wife. I tried it once. The first time I saw the exhibition, I came home and thought, oh, I can do that. So I worked for probably 3 hours, and I had a little square. It was lovely, blue background and a white snowflake. And then I said, I will never do that again. And I was only using one color. Your fiber pieces with the free stitching have beautiful blends of color that really are very painterly.
Thank you.
And so that's quite a process.
And I actually don't mind changing thread colors, and I don't know why, but it doesn't bother me to do that.
And then do you use the same bobbin color the whole time?
No,
or
I even change my
both?
bobbin.
Wow. Can't imagine, thinking that's just really fun. Now, tell about some of the other projects you've done. I know you have been commissioned to do work in the Kansas City area and for various shows here. Can you describe a project that you feel has really either pushed your boundaries or demanded a great deal of you that elevated your abilities and so forth?
Yes. I work with two artists here in Salina, and we do exhibitions together, Peggy Medina and Becky Heiberger. And we're just working on a new exhibit for 2019 and 2020. And we explore the female persona, what it is to be a woman. And we really enjoy exploring female issues together. What pushes the boundary there is that we're so completely different, but yet we seem to come together in idea, and our artwork complements and blends so wonderfully together. So we each have our own statement, yet together we have a stronger statement. So I think that really pushes me as an artist.
Right. And you all three use different media.
Yes.
You use both fiber and your pastels.
Yes.
Peggy uses usually clay, and Becky does three-dimensional assemblages, although I have seen some two-dimensional work by Becky recently, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll look forward to that next show. That'll be wonderful to see, because I remember the last one, and you all had different takes on a similar theme. So, well, we've barely scratched the surface of all that you do. One thing I forgot to mention was I know that with your sunrises, you are no longer confined to Kansas sunrises. You've been in other cities, other countries, and so forth. So I hope, and do you have a website?
Yes, I do. It's Debbie Wagner Art DebbieWagnerArt.com.
But DebbieWagnerArt.com. So if you folks out there would like to see examples of Debbie's work, please check her website, and I'll bet you could call and get a visit at her studio if you would like to do that as well. Thank you for being with us, Debbie.
Thank you,
and we're out
Connie.
of time.
Thank you.
See you next time.